Week 12, Jason, Ghost, we are ready to roll. No David today. I believe he is doing family Thanksgiving. The guy has a couple kids and, has to live the family life now, which we respect and understand. We wish him the best this week. He'll probably be at the top of the leaderboard in tonight's showdown and maybe tonight's 555 million maker. So we'll see David one way or another, whether it's on the leaderboard on the main slate or the showdown slate. I'm sure he'll be up there. But boys, how we feeling today? What do you think about the slate? I feel like it's an interesting one, to say the least, that I like a lot, and I'm having the hardest time with one or two positions. So
seems like to me, man, there's running back value. That's where it's going to kind of start for me. Quarterback's a little iffy. There's a lot of different options. I'm not really loving the cheap spots with like DeVito or Allen.
Yep.
So probably sticking that mid-range. And there's a couple games, man. There's, Detroit that just stomps on people. You don't have to worry about blowouts. Like you could have rolled Gibson, Monty, Goff, Amon-Ra, Jameson, and Brock Wright in your lineup last week. All of them, they all got there. So, Detroit's another good spot versus Indy. I know you're high on Anthony Richardson, but quarterback's the only big question mark for my main lineup. Like, where do I go with that? Running back seems pretty solid. He got value. Ghost, man, you had a rough Friday night in the streets of Canada, man. Are you back? Are you alive, bro?
Yeah, it's when we perform our best. So, on top of that, we got the Turkey Day 3-game slate coming up on Thursday. So, this next week's going to be huge for us, starting with today. But slate's really interesting, man. You could take a lot of different routes, and even if you take the same 3, 4, 5 mid-range running backs, there's still so many different options that you could stack with quarterback and wide receivers. Like, it's not forcing you to go to the exact same lineup structure as everybody else, which makes it fun for a tournament. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Looking at ownership here, we'll start at the quarterback position. I don't know what source you guys are using, but just going on Win Daily, it looks like the top 3 guys in terms of ownership are going to be Anthony Richardson, far and away number 1. I think that makes a lot of sense to all of us. Number 2, paying up for Jaden Daniels, which I thought would be unique to this week, and it appears like it will not be. And then Geno Smith at 5,700, Brandon Allen and DeVito right up there behind Geno Smith. Gross. Yeah. Let's start at the top. If you had to choose, I mean, what's your quarterback play? For me, I'm paying down in cash. I'm going to use Anthony Richardson in cash, no doubt. I think just the floor with the legs, and obviously should be trailing points because Detroit's offense, even when they throw 5 picks, can score at will. So Richardson makes a ton of sense for me. He's going to be the highest owned guy. I'm not going to go there in GPPs at all, but I will let you guys kind of start us off with what are your takes on, well, are you doing something different in cash games? I know most of you guys, I think Ghost plays cash. Jay, you just shoot for the moon and hit tournaments every once in a while. But I think cash games are important still. I will stick to my old ways here. But yeah, Richardson for cash, and then I will give you guys a couple guys that I like in tournaments a lot.
Yeah, as far as, quarterbacks, I want to mention weather. I'm in New York. It's super windy out. I went out with my dog earlier. Like, it's windy. In Jersey, it's going to be just as windy. So I know there's some people who want to play Cutlets, DeVito, whatever you want to call this dude, but I'll be off him. Baker, kind of interesting with Mike Evans. I bet Mike Evans props when it was at 51.5. Baker's in a good spot, but it could be a blowout. The Giants could just, they're trying not to mess us up this year. They could have had Jaden Daniels if they lost some games last year. And I don't think they want to miss out on, whoever they go out there and get, Sanders, whoever it is. So there's weather concerns in New York. Arizona, Seattle, obviously don't know exactly what's going to go down out there. We're expecting rain. How bad is the rain? I really don't know, but that kind of has me worried about that game. Richardson is fine. I'm debating Richardson or CJ Stroud in my season-long lineups right now. Don't know where I go there. Goff kind of makes some sense, man. They get there every week. He's in a dome. Good potential for – if you like Richardson, I think you should like Goff to some extent. So I think Goff's in play as well. I'm not going with any of these low-end quarterbacks. Stroud is sneaky. He just never has gotten there all year long. But if you're going to, fall in love with Nico or Tank Dell, I think a Stroud lineup makes sense. And would I be shocked if Patrick Mahomes goes out there and has a good game when everybody's loading up on Kareem Hunt, me included? He's going against Carolina, the worst team D in the league, and you got weapons now with Kelsey and Hopkins, so you know where to kind of pair. It's not super expensive for Kelsey. It's not expensive at all for Hopkins. He's got all his weapons. I wouldn't be shocked if Mahomes goes for 250 and 3 touchdowns, kind of make them feel good about what happened last week. So those are a couple spots. And, May and Tua also interesting. They're priced down 5.5, 5.8. If you want to come off Richardson, I think they're in good spots. Ghost, cash games, man. Where you living?
Well, it's got to be A-Rich and cash. If it's a really bold take to go anywhere else, just from the sheer ownership and the price point, like it doesn't allow you to get the skill position players that you need if you're paying up in cash. So you absolutely have to play Anthony Richardson, in my opinion, in cash games. I have 0 in tournaments. I just don't love the lineup structure that it gives you when you go Anthony Richardson. You're obviously going to pair him with 1, if not 2. Between Josh Downs has to be in there. If you think A-Rich is your guy in tournaments at that ownership, then Josh Downs absolutely has to smash. And they're probably going to come in at a combined 50 to 60% rostered. So it's just, I don't really like that there. Your run back options being take a pick between the top 15 Lions offensive players. Somehow they'll probably all score a touchdown where they do every single week. So the run back is not really a concern there for me. It's just more so in tournaments, your lineup structure ends up being way too chalky for me. So cash games, you have to lock them in. Tournaments, I'm playing absolutely 0. How's the weather looking in Arizona and Seattle? Do we have an update on that? Anybody got boots on the ground in Seattle?
Yeah, we usually do have someone in the chat from Seattle, but Roth says consistent rain, not a downpour. So I don't know. And then looking at the prop market too, both quarterbacks' passing number went down a little bit, 3, 4.5 yards. So maybe, 70% of a completion. So nothing significant at the moment. But yeah, it's turning me off a little bit this morning too. Because my favorite play on the slate just coming into it was Marvin Harrison Jr. So
yeah, mine was Kyler and Marvin Harrison Jr. That was my classic Tuesday build where the slate comes out and you're like, hey, I'm not really knowing what the weather's gonna look like 6 days in advance. It was auto lock for me was Kyler and Marvin Harrison Jr. I guess I'll save that for the late slate only. So for the main, I'll go back to my main 2 guys. They're right there in price point. It's going to be Baker Mayfield and Sammy D. Baker just continues to get the job done with this offense quietly, depending on your home league settings and everything. He's definitely a top 5 quarterback, if not a top 3 quarterback in fantasy football this year for all of your home leagues out there, no matter what the scoring format is. And getting Mike Evans back, I know he's going to be on a snap count, whatnot, but it just opens up that offense entirely, right? You no longer have Sterling Shepard, Jalen McMillan, whoever you wanted to call as the wide receiver 1 there with Chris Godwin done for the year. Mike Evans is going to open up targets for everybody else. Kate Otten at Tampa coming off that bye too. The 2-headed monster now, Bucky Irving and Rachaad White. The only thing I want to tread with caution, and we'll talk about this more so in the running game, is Tampa's offensive line had arguably the most important injury of the entire slate. So I'm not too concerned over how that affects Baker because typically he rolls out to the right a lot, and he's been doing that since college. So it's not really too bad for him. We got to be careful with that type of running game at the ownership that they're pulling there. But Baker for me and Sammy D, I think Justin Jefferson absolutely breaks the slate today. And new offensive coordinator in Chicago, getting Roma Dunze involved, and we'll talk about that more so in the wide receiver position. But I do think this game has very sneaky shootout appeal. I don't think Minnesota is going to be able to run that ball all that effectively, and I do think Sam Darnold goes for at least 225, 250, and 2, which at that price point, I get it. There's Geno, there's A-Rich. There's a bunch of there's a couple of guys that could go for 250 and 2. But when you have Justin Jefferson on your team and that's who you're throwing the ball to, I give a slight edge to Sam Darnold there with the game script for them on the road.
Darnold. Did not see that coming.
Sammy D. My punt quarterback, might as well get it out of the way. My punt quarterback this week's going to be Will Levis. I do think that they're going to be chasing points there. It's going to be chucking the ball a ton. Seems to be developing at least as much chemistry as he's had thus far with Calvin Ridley. And you can beat Houston on the deep ball. So I'll talk about a little bit how to stack that game because I'm not in love with NWI chalk there as a punt, but getting Calvin Ridley in your lineups, and then on the flip side of that game, CJ Stroud getting Nico Collins back and should be playing even more so this week than he did last week. So another game that has sneaky shootout appeal versus all the other ones, in my opinion.
All right. Well, Jay, you talked about everybody that I like a ton in tournaments. If I'm paying up, I love Mahomes. I think everything you said, and you seem to usually have a really good, just gut read on the situation. And in DFS, everything is not math and science. A gut read is trust your gut. I think is something Ghost and I say in the Discord often. This does feel like a blow up Mahomes game. Carolina's defense absolutely sucks. And you could stack Mahomes. I mean, Travis Kelce is sub 10, 6K. It's ridiculous. So, yeah, it's pure leverage off of Kareem Hunt. I will play a lot of Kareem Hunt, and in the lineups that I don't, I think I'm going to Patrick Mahomes, and I'm doing a 3-entry mix this week. My quarterbacks are Patrick Mahomes, and I really like CJ Stroud. I think that Tennessee is still a little bit of a pass funnel. Obviously, Houston is having a ton of success running the football, but I love Tank Dell. I absolutely love Nico Collins. I think the field will love Nico Collins too, but it is a pass funnel defense in Tennessee. Obviously, no L'Jarius Sneed again. I just don't think we may see him at all this year. There's no reason for him to rush back. Passing props in the 240s. It's a good spot. It's also he and Patrick Mahomes seem like they have the highest probability, maybe outside of Jared Goff, to throw for 3 touchdowns, which we certainly need on a slate with a lot of ownership with running quarterbacks. I have nothing bad to say about Bo Nix. I just don't think this is a game that Las Vegas really pushes the pace, and his price is getting up there a little bit, but he has just paid dividends to anybody that drafted him late or using him on a weekly basis in DFS. So I get it. Really, really, really wanted to play Kyler Murray and Geno Smith. More on the Kyler Murray side for only 6,200, but I do think that weather is going to turn me off and maybe push me more towards Kenneth Walker or James Conner, or potentially both, because I do think this game still has a lot of pace. But outside of Patrick Mahomes probably being 1A in tournaments, 1B is going to be Drake May for me. His ownership sub 5%. No weather issues at all in Miami. Both of those defenses are pretty poor. I could see this game going back and forth a lot. It's division. The Patriots, obviously not Belichick anymore, but always play Miami very, very, very well. And sub 5% ownership for one of the guys that does have, a rushing floor of 30 yards is very intriguing to me. And his, stack weapons, I'm not really in on Booty this week. I'm okay with DeMario Douglas, but Hunter Henry for 4K. You could stack Drake May with somebody and run it back with a very chalky but a very great play in Devon Achane. And we'll talk about Tyreek Hill and some of these other guys. But I do think that is a game stack that I'm very interested in this week. So Mahomes, Stroud, and Drake May for me. Honorable mention to Kyler Murray. I just probably won't get there because I am going to be afraid of the weather, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm with that, man. May, I just wouldn't pair him with a wide receiver. I think tight end's the way to go there. Go safer. If you're going to go with May, go safer. Hopefully Henry gets in there. Patriots receiving core are just all over the place, man. They're scary to roster. If you can nail it, nail it. But if I had
dude won $1 million with Bourne, right, last week?
I don't know how you get there, man. I really
kudos.
The
only play the only thing that makes sense is just because how owned Kayshon Boutte was last week, and you're just a pure leverage guy. And then Kendrick Bourne didn't play any snaps a week before. And I know if you Twitter it or if you're following the beat, they did say we're going to get Kendrick more involved, but fuck, that could mean 10 to 15 snaps. But yeah, he's in the Millie Maker lineup last week, which is just play single entry, guys, because you don't want to lose the people playing Kendrick Bourne.
Yeah, it's wild. No Allen for me, no DeVito for me. I think the weather is something to kind of be concerned of. And I think the Giants just puke all over the field today. They're really trying to lose right now. So those guys are out. I think Bo Nix, you mentioned it. It's interesting. 6.3 rushing upside. If the Raiders can stay in the game at all, I think, he's very viable for me too. But if you want to slide over to running back Stix, hit us off.
Let's do it. All right. Starting at the top of the board, we have Christian McCaffrey, no Brock Purdy. Other than that, nothing on the injury side of things that should scare anybody. Obviously, no Isaiah Pacheco this week. So Kareem Hunt at 5,700 is going to be everybody's favorite play against the worst defense against the run in the NFL. Makes a ton of sense. My guys, for me, obviously, I love Devon Achane. I'm interested to hear your guys' take on Detroit. It's basically they're probably both going to score a touchdown. It just pisses me off. It doesn't piss me off. It turns me off on trying to pay that much for either of these guys when it's either of them could have 12 carries and that's it. It just, I don't know. I don't like it. I'd rather have someone that's not going to leave the field. That is a guy like Devon Achane. Raheem Mostert's pretty much just gone, and we'll just see a little bit of Jalen Wright just as a breather for Devon. So Devon's our guy there. Really love Kenneth Walker. That is a guy that doesn't leave the football field, and if the weather is gross, like his game script shouldn't be affected. What are you guys' thoughts on Josh Jacobs this week? Everybody is hurt for San Fran, so I kind of like him at home.
Jacobs, if I get to Jacobs, I'd rather play Jordan Love with all his weapons than Jacobs.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at. It's like, can he have a big game? Yeah. Will he be low owned? Yeah. Is game script in his favor? Yeah. But San Fran, I don't know. The running backs that I went in the optimizer this morning. I just checked off the ones that I like. Obviously, it's Kareem Hunt, Brian Robinson, 5,700, 5,600. Very easy to build with those two guys. So you don't have to dumpster dive at quarterback. Gibbs over Monty for me, just hoping for some more upside in the passing game. Connor and Walker, love them both. I don't think weather really changes much for them. I also bet James Conner over 13.5 receiving yards. And then I also went with the alt line at 25 at plus 250, I think. So I think the weather might even help them in the passing game, dumping some more balls off. So Walker and Connor, I like them both. HN, you mentioned. And if you want to go like off the beaten path slightly and pay up somewhere, I do think Joe Mixon is still interesting, man. Like the volume that this dude's getting, and he didn't really get much respect in Cincinnati. And Stix, I know he's one of your guys in Cincinnati, but like all the volume in the world, man, catching passes, game scripts should be in his favor. If you pay up, I think you want a bell cow. Yeah. You want an offense that can score points, and you want somebody who's getting all the goal line touches as well. I'm still pissed off on Monday. I called, or whatever day that was. I put it in chat. He's going to go for 150 combined with 3 touchdowns. And I didn't bet the 3 touchdowns or the 2 touchdowns. Like, I just let it ride, man. But he's everything for this offense, man. And CJ Stroud is not really putting up points. When they get around the goal line, it's Mixon. So I think Mixon up top, if you want to get a little different, that's the way I would go.
Yeah, I have nothing wrong to say about Mixon. And if you drafted him, I think we talked about it on Sirius before the season started a couple times when we did like a preseason show. It's like there were so many weapons in Houston preseason, obviously with Diggs, Tank, Nico. And I think that was kind of our thing is like just draft Joe Mixon because they're going to be in the red zone so much. If you got Joe Mixon, he was like round 3 pick. Like you're fucking killing.
I traded Yvonne in our league in our Win Daily League for Mixon, like after like week 2 for Zach Moss and something else. And he's still dying by the day. Yeah. I don't even never do trades. He offered me something. I'm like, I'll take Mixon from you, bro. Thank you.
Yeah. I'll finish up and I'll go to you, Ghost. But yeah, I love Kenneth Walker, James Conner. I think just getting pieces of that game environment and pray the weather's not terrible is a good idea. I don't know how I feel about Tyrone Tracy. Like no one's going to play him. So it's another guy that's probably not going to leave the football field. So for $6K, that's a really good spot and no ownership. Kareem Hunt, we don't have to really talk about that. Below, I'm not doing the Amir Abdullah.
Are you touching Stix? Let me ask you a question. I'm hearing some hype around. Sia was on Bucky Irvin. I just bet his anytime touchdown prop of 170. There is some win. There is some volume there. People are talking up Tampa Bay that they're going to just lay it to the Giants. Any love there to get off the chalk of these cheap guys in Kareem Hunt?
I think if I went there, like Kareem Hunt's just such a better play in my opinion. I think if I do anything with Bucky or Rashad White, I would go in the prop market like you said and just hope that is my hedge. I just can't play everybody. And I'd rather have Brian Robinson too. Like find a way to get $300 more for a guy that's certainly going to score a touchdown today. So yeah, I don't know. Ghost, anybody different that you're on that is appealing for you this week?
To answer your main question, I am in on Josh Jacobs. That's one of my top tournament plays. No Nick Bosa for the 49ers on the defensive side of the football. I think they're going to drop back a lot more than typical. I don't think they're going to be able to pressure Jordan Love as much as they would hope. And the field should open up for Josh Jacobs at home. Nearly a touchdown favorite over San Fran. So Vegas not really giving them the respect that they typically earn on the market. And I do like Josh Jacobs at 6,800. I'll side with Monty over Gibbs here, but the one thing that I do want to note is that Indy's defense is really prone to explosive runs. And when Jahmyr Gibbs hits the gap in between the tackles, he's gone, man. So like I always go Monty for the most part. just because he just never gets respect, whether it be season-long drafts, drafts in the preseason, even week to week. Like, he's out there for the most part, snap rates aside, he's out there getting 12 plus carries nearly every single game. He's getting in the box every single game. It's like, where like similar situation where it's that Joe Mixon on that Houston offense has been absolutely ridiculous this season. They're in the red zone all the time. He's scoring all these touchdowns. Like, if Jahmyr Gibbs wasn't there, that would be $8,000 David Montgomery 100% of the time, right? So for me, it's going to be Monty over Gibbs. I just did want to point out that stat for Indy's defense. The explosive run rate is absolutely through the roof, and I do think Jahmyr Gibbs absolutely houses one. So it's always tough to decide between those two. I'll take Monty. I do love Josh Jacobs in that mid-range, and then like I was saying earlier, it's pretty much that three-headed monster of Kareem Hunt, Brian Robinson, and Bucky or Rashad White. Take your pick. So you guys are going to have to take a stand on that one. For me, like it's just massive chalk, man. That's the only thing. You guys know I don't like doing that in tournaments. It's just really tough spots to avoid. If there's one that I would avoid, and this is strictly an ownership thing. I'm not saying the guy's not going to do well. I really hope he does well. I have him on all of my fantasy teams this year in season long. He's my top owned running back in best ball. So like I think this week's going to be absolutely huge for me. And that's Brian Robinson. So and on the flip side, I hope he does absolutely amazing today. I hope he has a killer game. But Jaden Daniels inside the 10 at any point in time could just run it in himself. So if you are fading a chalk running back strictly for the point of ownership and you're like, you know what, I want to gain leverage over the field, similarly to how you guys were alluding to, playing Patrick Mahomes and stacking him in tournaments where you're not playing Kareem Hunt, you can make the same case to stack Jaden Daniels with Terry McLaurin or whoever you deem is the best fit in that offense and fade Brian Robinson, because when they get inside the 10, inside the 5, at any point in time, man, like Brian Robinson will likely get first crack at it. But if he gets stuffed at the line, Jaden Daniels is taking the next one. So that's kind of what you have to hope and pray for if you are fading one of these chalk guys. But in theory, Brian Robinson and Kareem have to be your two guys. It's just a lot of ownership there, man. That's the only thing. You have crazy leverage over the field if one of them doesn't do well. And in my case, I couldn't play everybody in tournaments that I want to, so I'm a little bit lower than the field than Brian Robinson, but those have to be your two running backs in cash games with Anthony Richardson at the quarterback position.
Yep, exactly what I have. All right, no love for Abdullah or any absolute punts, right? We're not going to roll.
I'm fading that game entirely, man. The ownership is nuts. I don't know if you guys just saw the recent update, but everyone's like, people are talking up Minshew and Jacoby Myers stocks, talking about like, no, missed the boat.
Jacoby Myers doesn't even play inside. He's going to see a lot of
missed the boat. I talked about Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers last week. They both did phenomenally well. Missed the boat entirely. I'm not touching that game with a 10-foot pole. Like if you want to play Courtland Sutton just for leverage over Calvin Ridley chalk in that mid range and Josh Downs, and hope that on sheer volume, Bo Nix gets him enough catchable balls where he's going to be able to outscore those two guys, then great. But seeing ownership trending towards that game for me, it reeks of the Pats chalk of last week, where it made absolutely no sense. It did not pan out. I'm not touching that game whatsoever.
Respect. All right, wide receivers. Let's start 7K and above. We got Mike Evans, Tyreek Hill, CD, Neighbors, Nico, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra, St. Brown. Ghost, let's keep it with you. Is there anybody that you're making a priority to pay up for in
Justin Jefferson breaks the slate today. Jefferson breaks the slate today.
The Bears don't get blown out. I don't like
Justin Jefferson breaks the slate today.
Yeah. All right. There's no ownership there. I get it. I think if I had to choose, Nico, is probably the best pound for pound play on the slate. I'm on Rob St. Brown. If you can afford him, we'll never talk you off of it. He's a great player no matter what. Not the matchup I necessarily like in terms of coverage. What do we got for Indy? They play a lot of zone, so it should be good for Amon-Ra St. Brown, but they don't blitz. I love Amon-Ra against the blitz. I like Tyreek Hill. Again, I like that game. I think using HN and Tyreek Hill together.
I like that dual stat, man. That's what I ended up doing last week, where we talked about a couple quarterbacks in, like Tua's borderline that punt range, right? We're talking about $5,700 Geno, and $5,800 Tua, whether it's a blowout or not, you know exactly where the ball is going. it's a quarterback that you can easily stack with a running back. And I talked about that last week on Tua with A-Chain and Tyreek. You leave Jalen Waddle, to me, is the guy that you leave to the side and you just leave him out. So these are guys that love, revenge narratives and this and that. Obviously, I have to mention it for DJ because that's our thing that we always do together. And the revenge narratives, you got Jonnu Smith in that game going back to New England. So I mean, look, there's plenty of stackable options there with Tua, and especially with Tyreek, you have a lot of upside there. $7,200 Tyreek on any other given week, you would absolutely be freaking out to play him. Like even in that first game when Tua came back, Tyreek was around this price. I think it was 67 or 7K flat, and he was like 99% rostered that week. He's still that price range. People just kind of forget to play him.
Yeah. Jason, what do you like up top?
Up top, I mentioned Amon-Ra last week. I think he's, if for whatever reason, whether it's Campbell just keeping his foot on the gas or Indianapolis staying in this game, he's just so involved. I know there's Jamison, Laporta, there's other options there, but I think Amon-Ra is the safest of the trio. I know, Ghost on Jefferson. I'm a little bit concerned. Chicago's defense pretty good. We've been attacking Indianapolis's secondary the whole season. It could be Jameson Williams that blows the top off, or it could be Amon-Ra for another 10 catches for 120 and a touchdown. So I think he's the safest. I'm not really interested in a discount on CeeDee Lamb. Tyreek makes some sense. New England probably wants to slow down the rock a little bit. So slight concerns there. I'm not going to Neighbors. I think Collins would be the guy that if I dropped off of Amon-Ra, I think Collins in a good spot. But, it's Justin Jefferson. It's Tyreek Hill. They're the top receivers in the league. So I think they're all viable for different reasons. Nobody's going to play Jefferson. Very little people are going to play Tyreek. I think CeeDee Lamb will be played just because of the discount. He's still getting a volume, but I'm not really getting there. So for me, if I'm picking one, I'll go Amon-Ra.
All right, paying up for Amon-Ra St. Brown. All right, going to the mid-tier. Let's go 55 and above. We'll just talk about some guys. Ridley and Sutton are going to have a ton of ownership. There is no healthy wide or cornerback for Las Vegas. I know that it seems like all of us think that Denver can run away with this game. I don't see how you cannot play Cortland Sutton at 5,800. The guy is literally getting 7 for 70 every single week. He's probably a core play for me, regardless of ownership. I, again, just can't see a way to get off of him. What do you guys think about Calvin Ridley, 5,700?
I can't get that dude right, man. And it can happen. It's been happening a lot more as of late. The matchup's pretty good. He's the number one target. He's priced right. Houston's defense, though, like eye test looks good, man. Like they've been playing really good. So I don't know, man. For GPPs, he can blow the top off. He can go out there. He's the number one target for Levis, but I don't have like faith enough to be like, I want to make him my core player and like that. I can't get there. I know Ghost is kind of on Levis, so maybe it's best that he talks about Ridley because I'm sure if you're playing Levis, you're playing Ridley.
Absolutely. That's the only place I am playing Calvin Ridley. I don't like ownership there, but ton of leverage to be had when no one's playing his quarterback. So, I mean, for me, where I wanted to get different and I'm paying up for Joe Mixon, it automatically makes you different there with everyone going punt running backs, and then kind of forces you to get off the top of the wide receiver pricing grid there. So you're going down to that mid range, and Calvin Ridley sitting right there, left with Joe Mixon off the chalk from running backs in the punt range, and no one's playing Will Levis. So for me, that's a chalk play where it's not a massive chalk there, but he's getting high ownership. That's a play that you can easily make work. Whereas somebody like Josh Downs, it's like you're playing Anthony Richardson, then you're playing a chalky Detroit Lion on the way back. Like it's just your whole lineup's going to be chalk. Whereas with if you like Calvin Ridley at that ownership, like I do, it's really not a problem in tournaments to be able to go sub 5% rostered Will Levis, and then no one's playing arguably the guy that's been the best running back in the entire NFL this year as your run back option. You could run it back with Tank Dell as well. You can run it back with Nico. There's plenty of upside there. So I'm only playing Ridley and Will Levis stacks. That's the one thing that I want to make clear.
Negative game script.
Denver running back Stix. I like that call, man. Javonte
I
Williams
called
was sitting there at
I
36.
called Javonte last week. No one listened to
Go.
me.
So let me
I
ask
said
you a
it.
question then.
I said it.
If you're the Peyton Whisperer, 36.5 yards for Javonte. Any reason to go back there and just hit in the prop mark? I'm not playing him DFS, but 36.5, is he the guy this week, or is it back to estimate?
So Sean Payton has to, like, he only likes playing one running back. That's the thing. Like, that's what he's done his entire career. And that's why everyone's like, oh, he's the running back whisperer. He's always had a top 6 or top 7 PPR running back in his coaches. It's just because his running back, once he identifies who that is, does not leave the field. The problem with this Denver backfield is that he hasn't chosen his guy yet. So he'll really decide early on, and this is exactly what I said last week. If Javonte goes out there and gets 4, 5, 6 yards per carry on his first 3, 4 touches, he'll be great. If he goes out there and gets stuffed at the line, guy's going to be on the bench immediately. And it's the same thing with his teammate. If he goes out there and that's exactly what happened last week. He went 3 carries for 7 or 8 yards. On the bench, Javonte came out 5, 6, 7 yards. His first 3, 4 touches, Javonte was on the field. It's just the way it is right now in Denver. You can't really afford to touch it. I always go back to exactly what I said last week. Javonte is the clear most talented running back in that running back room. So for me, it's going to always be Javonte. I'll never say play Estime until Javonte goes out with an injury randomly in week 17, week 18, when I think that they fall out of playoff contention. I mean, that's where you could play a guy like that. But for me right now, where they're hanging on to this wild card spot, Javonte is clearly the most talented guy in that backfield. So for me, it'll always be Javonte. But again, he goes out there, gets stuffed at the line his first 2, 3 touches. Do not be surprised if those are his last touches of the game.
So, let me ask you another question while you're on the spot here. Wide receivers in this Dallas-Washington game. I bet Kevontae Turpin just for props, 16.5. That was too low of a number, but are you playing any CD? Are you playing any Terry McLaurin? Do you like the passing game when everybody's loading up on Brian Robinson?
Yeah, so like I was saying before, Brian Robinson on all my fantasy teams this year, my top owned best ball running back. For me, it was ridiculous, the price that he was being drafted at, well into the 110, 120 range. That was ridiculous. But for now, this is a great matchup for him. You got poor quarterback play coming out of Dallas. They're 11 or 11.5 point favorites, depending on what the line moved to. I mean, technically, he should easily be going for 60, 70, 80 yards plus and a touchdown. But like I was saying with Jaden Daniels, once you get inside the 10 or the 5, all bets are off. Jaden Daniels could run it in 3 times today if he really wants to. Who I am playing is Terry McLaurin. So I'm not playing any Cowboys wide receivers. I don't feel the need to force a run back just because that's what we've been doing over the last who knows how many years. It's like at some point you just have to adapt to the way that these lineups have been cashing lately. Not all of them have run back options. So for me, just limiting it to Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin is where I'm going. I'm not getting cute with it. I'm not playing Noah Brown. I'm not choosing a random elevated practice squad Dallas Cowboys tight end to play. Like for me, it's just I'm not getting fancy with it. It's Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin absolutely destroys the Dallas Cowboys. Happens every single year. He just has their number. Who's covering him? He moves all around the field. They'll scheme him open again today. And for me, with everybody going down to that 5.5 to 6K wide receivers, we talked about Sutton, we talked about Ridley, we talked about Josh Downs. All these guys are going to be 15 to 20+% rostered. Nobody is playing $600 Terry McLaurin. They're just going to go further down the pricing grid there. A ton of leverage over not only Brian Robinson, but all those other mid-range wide receivers because you don't need all that much salary to jump up to Terry McLaurin.
Stix, let me ask you a question now. If you don't go Sutton, do you like this dude, Vele? Dave was talking about him last night on Sirius at 3,900. Is he a guy that you want to go to? And then my second question for you, Indianapolis, they have Downs, they got Pittman, they got Pierce. Is there a guy that you choose if you want to kind of game stack that game, whether you're going A. Rich or you're going Goff? Is there a guy that you feel most confident in on Indianapolis?
Indianapolis situation's tough. I don't think I want to pay up It's not even paying up that much, but 6,200 for Josh Downs. Looking at the coverage, Detroit plays a ton of man and they blitz a lot. For Indy and Anthony Richardson, historically, like he mixes it up a lot. So I don't know if like it could be Pittman, it could be Alec Pierce on a deep ball. The negative game script would be an advantage to Michael Pittman and Josh Downs. So like those would probably be my two preferred guys, but I don't hate Alec Pierce at 4,900 if you're stacking this game and just hoping that it just goes absolutely nuts. It does have the highest total on the slate. Who was the other question about for
Valet,
Devon Bailey?
however you pronounce the dude's name.
I'm okay with that as an absolute punt. He's probably the top value in the 80 model for guys under 4K. I feel like if it's that low, I would rather have some. Oh, it's a good play. I do like it. I'd rather have maybe Demario Douglas. I think in a negative game script should be a solid spot for him. I like Roma Dunze. I know that Ghost was talking about that. He gets a massive upgrade against zone blitz, which is all we'll see from Brian Flores. But at the surface, I'm really not paying down that much at all for wide receiver. I think the lowest that I have built in a main like three max lineup is Demario Douglas at the moment.
Okay.
But yeah, Devon Bailey at 3,900. Like the guy is getting more snaps every single week. He's good. He's a big body. He catches everything. He looks like a really good draft pick. And tip of the cap to Sean Payton and this Denver Broncos team for making an immediate impact this season. I thought a lot of people thought that they would suck, and they're certainly overperforming. So that is good stuff. Do we like any, like, you didn't really talk about Hopkins, Xavier Worthy? Like, if we're interested in Patrick Mahomes,
I think Hopkins would be the guy. I think Kelsey's the safest play. He's priced down to 5,800 after a bad week last week, against Buffalo. I think Hopkins is the safest one. He'll probably catch a touchdown. More touchdown equity, in my opinion, than Worthy. Worthy could go off though, man. So like Worthy's kind of like that boomer bust play, kind of like a Jameson Williams. And I'm not calling D-Hop. I'm on route right now. But at 5,400, I don't think he burns you. Worthy has more options to kind of burn you, just be forgotten, doesn't get his feet in, whatever he does wrong. But yeah, I would lean Hopkins over Worthy, and I would lean Kelsey. If you're gonna go there, I'd rather just get one piece there and spend $400 more. Stix, on your lineups where you're playing Hunt, are you okay with another Chief there? Just expecting the Chiefs to go out there and put up 30?
Yeah.
Like Kelsey Hunt is your combo, and are you with those lineups? Are you playing Mahomes, Kelsey, and Hunt together? Or you taking Hunt out of those lineups?
I'm taking Hunt out of those lineups. I do not think that he is going to be very involved in the pass catching game if they even need to do it. We saw a lot more Piran last. Samaje Piran is good. Like, what am I missing that he doesn't get more work anywhere he goes? I don't understand. Like, he's even good at running the football. He's an absolute tank. But it makes sense that they should just run Kareem Hunt into the absolute ground with Pacheco likely coming back next week. But if I'm playing Mahomes, it is solely with the game, like the mindset and game theory of like Mahomes is doing everything in the red zone. And if Kareem Hunt's going to have 15 carries for 82 yards and one catch for 6 yards, as long as he doesn't get in the box, that is just dead chalk right there walking. So I'm okay with that and playing Mahomes as an absolute blow up game for him here, because he needs to get up fantasy points up there and get his name back in the I don't think he has any chance of making MVP, but if he goes on a late season tear, like he'll at least be back in the conversation.
No MVP for that dude this year. But Ghost, I know we're all off Myers for the most part. Somebody else in that range is Jawan Jennings. I know you've been nailing him the last couple of weeks as well. Doesn't have Purdy. Debo laid an egg last week. Kittle is back. Is Jennings at all interested in that mid-range 5.6 on DK? You got anybody else in the mid-range that you like? Najigba, we haven't mentioned him, or Metcalf, 6K, 6.3, 6.6. Who's the guys that you like in the mid-range? And let me know what you think about Jennings.
Yeah, so off nearly every single guy that you named there, I can't get behind the weather in Seattle. So would love to play JSN or DK, but I just don't see if you want to do that. For me, it's going to be in a late only slate type of thing where, for the most part, I would imagine that everybody's going to be going to the Denver and Vegas game. If you want to get different with it, you could go to the passing attack in the late slate because nobody's going to play it, and you avoid all this early slate potential shootout games, right? So Off Jason, off DK for my main lineup. You want to play them in a late slate, go for it. Juwan Jennings, it's been my dog this year, but I just can't do it. I have another guy that I will offer as a pivot, and I'm just going to leave you guys hanging. So last week I called 1% Xavier Worthy, going absolutely nuts. If you want to go back to it like I am with Mahomes stack, you absolutely can. Just he'll be no longer 1% rostered anymore now that he had a great game last week, but that was an absolute blast to have that. This week it's Michael Pittman. Everybody going Josh Downs. He won't be 1% rostered, but again, similar situation to Javonte Williams in the sense that everybody likes the flashy new toy, and it's that Josh Downs has been super consistent. He's been Josh Downs has been phenomenal this year. Don't get it twisted. But he's also had phenomenal matchups 3-4 weeks in a row. This week, I will never turn the blinders on to a guy strictly based on game logs or box scores. You guys know I absolutely hate that. Like, looking at what Josh Downs has done, he's done exactly what he was supposed to do in the matchups that he'd had. Today's matchup, it's Michael Pittman. And it's not like he's going out there and playing 40% of the snaps and getting 2 targets a game. And it's like, oh man, what happened to Michael Pittman? He's still getting 8, 9, 10 targets, man. Like last week, if you include the 2 pass interference calls, he had 10 targets. Like at 5,300, it's not absurd to think that Michael Pittman chasing points at home can go absolutely nuts in this game script. And that's what I'm banking on today. It's a very easy pivot off of Josh Downs chalk. You're still getting exposure to one of, if not the best game on the entire slate. And you're getting it on the right side of the football because Indy will 100% be chasing points in this one. So again, we talked about Anthony Richardson, massive chalk Anthony Richardson. In tournaments, I just can't do it. If you are doing it, for me, you have to get different with it, guys. You can't just be playing Anthony Richardson with Josh Downs, run it back with Amon-Ra. Okay, there's 90% of the people are going to be doing that in your single entry contests. So to be able to get exposure to that game, for me, it's going to be all about Michael Pittman. I think that's the sub 5% Xavier Worthy that I called last week. This week, it's going to be Michael Pittman.
Love it. Anybody else? We had a couple questions on Christian Gonzalez potentially shadowing Tyreek Hill. Good luck, Christian Gonzalez. That's all I'll say. Are we doing anything with Metcalf, Jackson Smith, the Jigba? I know we in our hearts love that game. It sounds like we're all going to be scared and puss out a little bit.
I'm
still playing Marvin Harrison Jr., man. Like when I look at man coverage, and that's what Seattle plays a ton of, every single week that I've talked about him blowing up against man coverage, he does it. Like Marvin Harrison Jr., when I have a read for him, it seems to work out. I think 6,100 is criminal. Obviously, Travis Kelce being 5,800 is probably criminal too, but 2 of the most mispriced players on this slate, Marvin Harrison's one of them. I'm still playing
with that. Yeah, with Stix with that game. Yeah, with that game, just if you're gonna go in that game, kind of push in a little bit harder in that game. Don't. If you're gonna go with 1, go with 2, or go with 3. I like Connor. I like Walker. I like JSN. I like Harrison. McBride makes sense too. We'll talk about that. Like if you're gonna do it, kind of game stack it. 3-4 players in that game. If not, like Ghost said, safest play. Game stack into 4 o'clock only. That's another option. But, I think whether rain, wind usually concerns me more than rain. Gino's a big arm. Kyler's got a good enough arm where I don't think it's going to be too concerning. If we get weather that's, 25-mile-an-hour winds, which I'm not seeing at this point, and rain, that'd be more of a worry to me. So I think if you like these guys, play them.
Yep. All right. Let's go to tight end. What are we doing at the top? I mean, Travis Kelce is pretty hard to ignore. 5,800, likely somebody you're using in cash games at the ownership that we're seeing now, pushing 20%. I think if you're not going there, you're probably punting tight end. And here are really I'm not going to pay 6,300 for Brock Bowers. He is an absolute superstar. It's just not a game that I'm super excited about other than Cortland Sutton. Not playing George Kittle with Brandon Allen. Travis Kelce, we already talked about. Trey McBride, I think, again, like Jay said, if that's a game that you want to 3-2 stack, Trey McBride is certainly one of the top options there. I just don't love his ceiling against man coverage. I think it's a Marvin Harrison Jr. spot, and James Conner is certainly a massive focal point of that offense. I'll never pay 5,500 for Cade Otton. If that burns me, it burns me. 4,300, Sam Laporta, Ghost. Are you in on Sam Laporta? I feel like he's going to be one of these randos. Not to say that Sam
Mhm.
Laporta is a rando, but like he's probably going to score a touchdown against Indianapolis. 4,300 for someone that could go for 5 catches, 55 yards, and 2 touchdowns is a great price.
I have 76% Sam Laporta today.
Oh, wow. All right. He's in. Needless to say,
Yeah.
that is going to be a pivotal play for you because he's going to be like 2 to 4% owned in that range. TJ Hawkinson, Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry. That is a area that I like a ton. I think Hawkinson in the middle field against Chicago is a great spot. And you, for some reason, think this game can shoot out, which is interesting. So I'm assuming you like TJ Hawkinson too. Are we chasing the Jonnu Smith points, Jason? He has been on an absolute heater. And the coverage breakdown for New England is a lot of man coverage, which in the scripts at 80 runs is a massive advantage to Tyreek Hill. And then they do play a lot of 2 high safeties, which would be an advantage to Jonnu Smith and Tyreek Hill.
It's a fine play. Like, I would prefer HN and Tyreek Hill over, Jonnu Smith. Like, he got there last week somehow, some way. He was vulturing touchdowns from everybody that you wanted to have. He's fine. He's fine. At 4,100, he's fine. Laporta, I'd probably lean more Laporta over Jonnu. I think Hunter Henry would be lesser owned and could be a bigger target for New England as well. So I think they're both fine. They're in the player pool for me. I'm out on Hawkinson, but Laporta, Smith, Henry in the player pool. I think Zach Ertz kind of interesting at 3,800. And Kelsey's the guy up top if you go there. If not, if you want to pivot and people are worried about the rain, I think McBride is fine. Ghost, going to come back to you one more time. Tight ends, man. Shoemaker, 2,500 minimum salary. Got a ton of targets last week. You're shaking your head already.
Gross. No.
Why? Tell me why. 2,500.
Bro, just because somebody gets injured doesn't mean it's next man up and this guy's going to be the best thing since sliced bread. Like, I get it. He's 2,500, but like the guy sucks. There's no it's just that's what it is. Like, that's like saying, oh, Trae Young is out. Okay. The other guy's not starting for a reason. Like, we can't just automatically assume the next guy up is going to be unreal. And that, like, okay, at 2,500, you need 2 catches for maybe 25 yards. But there's so many better value plays on the slate where I felt zero need to get a $2,500 tight end in my lineup this week. Like, it's not like there's a million studs to jam in. Like, I really don't understand that chalk. If anything, find $400 to go to Theo Johnson. Not that I'm like in love with that play, but there's Theo Johnson that's there. There's so many guys that are like 3.5, 4K, where it's like I don't even understand how he made the team as a Cowboys guy. I don't understand why he's there. He's so bad. Now that I said that, he's gonna go and get 50 yards and 4 touchdowns this week randomly. It's gonna be his total career numbers in one game. But
Top market
I
has him
cannot
at
stand that guy.
Stix, do you hate him as much? I think it's just a Cowboys fan just so upset and hates the Cowboys so much right now.
Bro. I can't stand that guy. If anything, play. I don't even want to say it because I don't like punting tight end this week at all. But Spanford is literally a better football player than Shoemaker is.
Stix,
no
love for Shoemaker, 2,500.
I mean, I feel like Ghost could have insert the scene from Billy Madison. A simple no would have done just fine. He didn't have to rip out his heart if any of the Shoemaker family tuned in.
Bro. It drives me insane. The Cowboys love this guy, and he's so bad. Like, he just catches random checkdowns every time for 3 yards and somehow gets fantasy points. It's like he makes zero impact on the game. As a fan, it's so frustrating to watch.
All right, take a breath. Take a breath.
Like, all right, Shoemaker goes out and catches these random passes. It's so funny. Jay's asked me like 3 times this week, and he keeps asking me to change my answer. He asked me like 3 times about Shoemaker, but it's nuts.
All right, take a breath. You have an ad read real quick for Wrestling Paving. Theo Johnson, I don't know. I mean, I'm out. But Ghost, can you do our ad read real quick, and then I'll go to the bottom of the barrel of tight ends here.
The ad read. Wait, what you sent me something? Oh, Rusting and Paving for all your paving and concrete needs.
Hell yeah, that's our
The
boy.
best. The best.
Do you have any thoughts on Theo Johnson? Or I mean, he's talented. He runs for the
DJ like Theo Johnson too. No.
I like Jatavion Sanders more at 3,400. I think Cole Kmet against zone blitz should have a pretty busy day. We saw him get a little bit involved. His player props, Jay, I think that was one I wanted to talk to you about, a potential ladder. It's like 24 yards. His ADOT against blitz is decent. It's like 11 to 12. So if we can get 3 catches, he's going to go way over that. If he breaks a tackle, he can go well over that. I like TJ Hawkinson because the second highest owned tight end on the slate is Hunter Henry. I do think it's a really good game script for Hunter Henry. Coverage-wise, it's an advantage to Hunter Henry and Demario Douglas in that game. I do think that Hawkinson on the inside, because I'm against you, Ghost. I don't think this is a ceiling game for Justin Jefferson. Jalen Johnson's an absolute superstar, so I do respect it. I would assume that he shadows today because they kind of have to, unless, they'll bring Justin Jefferson inside a little bit too, and he won't go in.
That's a great point.
I do like Hawkinson. Like, it's a team that should score a lot. Not a lot, but, like a 22.5 implied team total, like for Minnesota. If they get in the red zone, I think Hawkinson can certainly score twice. So I'm trying to find guys that have that significant upside. I wouldn't say Jatavion Sanders or Cole Kmet or Theo Johnson really have that, but obviously that price is baked in. But 4,200 for TJ Hawkinson when everybody's going to Hunter Henry makes a lot of sense to me. Is there anything else at the tight end position you guys want to touch on?
Do you like Sanders? That word to me about I do, and that's why I ended up with so much Laporta was because I had to throttle Hawkinson down just a bit in my Donald stocks and ended up with more Addison than I had originally planned for. And I didn't even mention them. My run box, I'm using Rome #1 and DJ Moore. New OC really scheming. Like it seemed like a completely new Rome with Dunze last week. So I do like
he crushed his own blitz too. Like Rome's a good play at 4,800.
That's what I saw with your stuff too, and I was like, hey, everything seems to be aligned here. But I just had to throttle Hawkinson down a little bit just based off his snap count alone.
It is weird.
Like, they seem to be letting him lose. They're not, and they seem to be super cautious with him, which I get it. Like they're in a really, really good spot, probably a spot that they did not anticipate themselves being in right now, but they don't have the overwhelming need to be chasing. Like, I don't know. I can't really get a read on that. So I ended up throttling it down a little bit. I went with more Jonu than TJ Hawkinson. I just wanted a piece of that game for the most part. I know the implied team totals aren't through the roof, but I went with more Jonu than I was originally planning. Because for me, it was going to be Laporta, Hawkinson, end of list. But just with the snap rates, I don't know. They seem to be overwhelmingly cautious. But when he is out there, guys getting targets. So
respect. All right, let's hit a couple defenses. We don't really spend much time on that. I mean, I'm usually, whether this is good or bad, looking to pay down for a defense that I just at the surface won't go negative. So like Carolina, probably going to go negative. Not really interested there. Tennessee, I don't hate, but they're on the road and they're pretty banged up. They have no DBs at all. So I'm probably out there. I think I would start the conversation. I mean, Indy is probably going to go negative. Detroit just beats the shit out of everybody when they're at home. So I'd start the conversation with the New York Giants, Chicago Bears. I like Green Bay a lot. I think
Packers #1.
Yeah, pick on Brandon Allen there. You could play. I don't like Miami's defense. I know they're going to be relatively popular. And personally, just to be clear, I can't pay up for defense based on my builds. So it is the Giants, Chicago. Like the Giants defense is very talented. They have playmakers. And it's, Baker. He's shown many times that he could throw 2 or 3 picks. And Mike Evans may not be fully healthy. Like, he's good to go, right? They are activating him. His player props just weird me out.
He's active. The props are coming up a little bit. I've seen some just him talking, which doesn't mean much. He's the player, he doesn't have all control, but says he wants to go out there and play. And he's got the Jerry Rice thing. He's going after 1,000 yards and however many consecutive seasons. Like, he's done the math. He's talked about it recently too. So I'm sure he wants that. Whether or not he goes after it and they allow him to go out there as much as he wants, I bet the prop at 51.5. I think I saw it this morning at 55.5. So it is creeping up a little bit, Stix. I don't know if it's everybody betting it or reports. Yeah. Don't really know, but
this is a great comment here by Go Get It. Thank you for this. Josh Oliver is out. His snap counts have been through the roof, even with really Hockenson back. I think this is big for Hockenson, 4,200. He may be like a core play for me today now. That's great. I appreciate that very much.
It changes things massively. For some reason, there's two teams north of the border that are always on TV. It's always the Pats. They're the closest team to the border, them in Buffalo. And Minnesota, for some reason. We always get Minnesota games televised. Josh Oliver was out there so much. So this drastically changes things. Yeah,
he has ran 18 routes the past in their last game. He ran 18 routes. Hawkinson's 21, so 18 routes are vacant minimum. I know that was a little bit of a slower game. Yeah, Hockenson. Let's get a play.
Can't wait for us to get our hearts broken by Johnny Munt. But
yeah, that would suck. All right, defense. Yeah, I spoke my piece. You guys like anybody there?
Yeah, Bears, Packers for me. If I'm going cheap, 2,500, 2,800. I think those are the two best spots, at least what I like. Outside of that, if you want to take a shot and think this rain is going to be a thing, I think Seahawks and Cardinals are both playable. And then it's, pretty much, I go up top. I think the Chiefs in a great spot. Texans in a good spot. Commanders in a good spot. So if you can get up there, and then Tampa Bay, like kind of in that mid-range-ish with the Broncos, mix and match those. Those would be the guys. But my main lineup right now has the Packers, 2,800. I think it's the safest spot, and you're not paying up.
Love it. All right, let's do a quick recap. Ghost, cash quarterback, GPP quarterback.
Anthony Richardson for cash and Darnold for tournaments.
I will go A-Rich and cash as well. Tournaments, I'm going to go Drake, May, Honorable. I'll let Jay talk about a pay up. You don't play cash, so just go to GPPs. We know.
Yeah, GPPs, I think Goff and Mahomes pay up. If not, I think Bo Nix is still kind of forgotten at 6,300. The rushing upside is there.
Love that. Running backs, go for cash. Ghost, go ahead. What do you got?
Everybody got the same.
You got the career on Brian Robinson. You don't have to.
Yep. I will add Devon Achane to that. His ownership's through the roof, and for good reason. Tournaments, Ghost.
We're going mixing up top. Jacobs in the mid-range. And then rotating in those cash running backs. But yeah, it's going to be mixing up top for me and Josh Jacobs. I like pairing him with Packers D. Like Jay pointed out Packers D. I like that duo a lot.
For me, I'll go I like the mix and call up top. Mid-range, it's Ken Walker and James Conner. I think they're both going to be involved. If you're going to punt and go down below, I'm getting some late gut feel on Bucky Irvin. I bet his prop plus 170 getting in the end zone. Rushing props are climbing up. They have game script in their favor. So I think if he finds the end zone at 5,300, could be kind of sneaky.
All right. I like Achane no matter what. I really like Kenneth Walker and James Conner. Obviously, for cash, you're playing Kareem Hunt. I think for tournaments, I don't hate Tyrone Tracy, but for me, it's going to be Seattle, Arizona guys all day. Wide receivers. Ghost, one for cash, one for tournaments, and then give us like your favorite value.
Cash, Courtland Sutton, ownership's through the roof. We only want one for cash and then two for tournaments.
Let's do it.
JJ up top and Michael Pittman.
Michael Pittman. All right. Cash up top. I'm going Nico Collins. Tournaments, Tyreek Hill. Mid-tier values. Again, the weather shit. We don't need to talk about that. Absolutely love Marvin Harrison Jr., Jackson Smith, and the Jigba. Cool with that. DK Metcalf, right? We like that game. Cash in the value side of things, Courtland Sutton. And then a pay down.
You going Vele in tournaments?
No, I'm not playing Vele in tournaments. I like Roma Dunze, Alec Pierce. I don't hate Michael Pittman. Give me Demario Douglas.
Or take Michael Pittman.
Demario Douglas.
Okay.
Demario Douglas. I'm not going to play a 20% on Hunter Henry, so I'm switching to Demario Douglas with Drake May.
Up top, I'll go Amon-Ra. I like the Pittman call. I think I got a Goff stack with Amon-Ra, so Pittman kind of my running back. Pierce makes sense. I think JSN, I wouldn't get too worried about the weather. He can still go off. And as my punt, I'm giving this dude Valet a shot, 3,900. If it is New England, I will ride with Stix. I think it's Douglas if you're going to go that route. But if you're going to go down low, I'm going to go Valet and hope he's the guy who scores a touchdown when other people are on Sutton and GPPs.
All right. Tight ends. Cash, I will go. I mean, whatever fits. Hunter Henry's going to be very popular.
Say Shoemaker just to piss off Ghost.
Dude, I do not want to get him going on that guy again. Like,
I'm making a lineup right now with Shoemaker and Spanford together, just so it's going to somehow win $1 million, and then I'll just send it all to Jay. Like, it's just,
I don't hate it.
I have to do it now. Shoemaker is so frustrating as a fan to watch, man. I hope Spanford goes really well today.
Thanks, Jason. You got him going again. I get it for 2,500. So in cash, I'm okay with it. I even don't mind like Cole Kmet or Jatavion Sanders in cash just because they should be involved. My favorite tight end now is TJ Hawkinson. I'm in. I think Justin Jefferson gets shut down. Aaron Jones should do his on the ground, and in the red zone, we're going to see a lot of Hawkinson. Aaron Jones sucks in the red zone this year. What's going on there? He gets stuffed all the time.
So weird. Even in Green Bay when they were trying to feed this dude a touchdown, I couldn't get in.
I would have won the early only MME for 50K. It was single bullet. All I needed was an Aaron Jones touchdown.
Stix, let me ask you a question. Now, I'm making a lineup right now. If you got Goff and Amon-Ra and Pittman in that lineup, do you still prefer Hawkinson over Laporta? You have the same. They're basically sitting there 4,200, 4,300.
Yeah,
Get both.
If you're playing Goff, I think obviously you're fading the running situation there. Play Laporta too. Play his best guys in the red zone. That's Laporta and Amon-Ra.
All right, good. All right.
Ghost? I know you're not punting.
You're making me. Yeah, I'm gonna go 100% Shoemaker this week, but no, Laporta. But I'm gonna have to. You're really talking me into Hawkinson, man. I throttled it down. I'm gonna have to.
You like Darnold, yeah. It makes a ton of sense for you.
It was just the snap count was so concerning, but now Josh Oliver being out, it's not like a crazy impacting injury, but it does change things a lot. So I'll just go those two guys. It's going to be 90% of my tight end exposure. So Laporta is my top guy, and TJ Hawkinson. We didn't mention it again on the show. I feel like I do this every time before we're about to drop. We didn't mention the FanDuel slate that has the late game. Devonta Smith being out, we didn't talk about him in the wide receiver group, but AJ Brown arguably the wide receiver one on the entire Sunday slate today. So don't forget about that over there.
And Saquon and Jalen Hurts and good run backs too in that game. I know Philly's defense is better.
At the one tonight.
Yo, it's fucking it's like it's double digits now. It's crazy because I have him in my best ball. I never
noticed until you pointed it out.
Yeah, it's like 9 or 10 times now. Wild, bro. Just keeps happening. Saquon's not upset about it either. He's not like grumpy about it. He's totally cool with it. Like, all right, just run the tush push again. So
apparently his agent made it all of his incentives are on total yardage, and he has 0 touchdown incentives because of the tush push. Like, I don't know. They were talking about that the other day on SportsCenter. I thought it was really funny.
Yeah, it's funny. He made me some money the other day at his ladder receiving prop at plus 750. So Saquon's my dude right now. We gotta get some ladders Stix, so I want you to stick around. I gotta find a good ladder. I got James Conner. Go over a couple bets. I got Conner over receiving yards. I got Tracy over rushing yards. I got Mike Evans over 51.5. Just to room Bucky Irvin over anytime touchdown. Only on FanDuel was plus 170. It was too enticing to pass up. I'm gonna get some more in before the hour's through here, but I think we're all set. Stix, what do you got?
I would like a price check on Hawkinson stuff. So after the show here, let's sync up and we'll get something. But other than that, good luck. Thank you all for tuning in. Great show. I'm excited to see how these games shake out. And go Drake May and Patrick Mahomes and TJ Hawkinson.
Let's go.